At this point, we have 26 to 30 million people unemployed. Dealers have had to furlough many people, and so now, without a doubt, those conversations we had 3 months ago are almost completely irrelevant to what is going on right now. So we want to talk through that a little bit. The human side of the business in this industry especially is super important. A lot of family businesses, a lot of close relationships. So every dealer in the country has this on their mind, has people on their mind as they don't have full staff right now. They're not sure what they're going to need. So this is what the conversation is going to revolve around. So I want to start out with Candace. Can you just give us a little bit of insight? First of all, just tell people what it is that you do, what you're doing right now, and then give us some insights that might be pretty unique to your perspective. And then we'll flip to Adam and we'll have a conversation.
Sure, yeah. So I do people strategy consulting for dealerships and manufacturers, and a lot of what I'm doing is helping dealers to advance their business through the lens of their people. And what I'm seeing right now, and you brought this point about being guilt-free, Paul, and in terms of your branding campaigns. And I think my clients are trying to do the same thing on the people side, right? So I had a lot of conversations throughout 2019 around how to move their organization forward with their people, meaning how do we create broader roles? How do we change compensation plans that are less variable to be able to attract a different kind of candidate? How do we have more accountability across the organization, across functions versus just within our silos? And the problem with implementing those initiatives is that it's incredibly disruptive. But right now we're experiencing this disruption whether we wanted to or not, right? It's upon us. So just like you were talking earlier about kind of reinventing your brand, I think this is a great opportunity to reinvent your people strategy as well.
Yeah, that's a really great insight. So thank you for that. Adam, we're going to flip to you. Adam, CEO of Hireology. You probably have the most holistic perspective of what's going on in the labor market right now. So maybe you could tell us, what is going on in Hireology and what your perspective is on now and the coming future.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Paul. So we serve today nearly 1 in 4 new car franchise dealers in the U.S. And what that gives us is the ability to take data from all 50 states and the dealers in those states and produce a valid assessment of where the labor market is in automotive retail for new car franchise dealers. And so I want to share with you an update to something I mentioned in an article for Automotive News at the beginning of March. What I said was, based on our early returns from customers and looking at the data, I estimated that somewhere between 1/3 to 1/2 of all jobs in automotive retail would be terminated or furloughed, at least on a temporary basis. That was the prediction. Really, this started with President Trump's Friday announcement or Thursday announcement that week, I think March 13th, where he said, hey, we're putting the nation on lockdown, more or less. After that Monday, we came back in and the bottom dropped out. And so, just looking at our data right now, what we see on our platform, back on March 10th, there were approximately 25,000 open jobs in automotive retail, which translates to about 127,000 jobs in the United States for new car franchise dealers. And fast forward to today, we see approximately 20,000 jobs open on our platform, which translates to an open job number of about 102, 103,000 in the industry, which is a 20% drop in a month. That's just on new roles. And anecdotally, what we see through announcements like the one Sonic made in their public filing, an earnings call where they've furloughed or laid off about 1/3 of their staff. It looks like those predictions are on track, that we may be north of 1/3 and closer to half by the time we get to the end of May. Now, the bright spot there is that we're seeing behavior change. So right now, what we're seeing are kind of the most progressive thinking, aggressive dealers who understand that people are a source of competitive advantage for them in the future are coming back into the market and saying things like, this is my once in a decade opportunity to go after talent in other industries that I did not have access to over the last 2 or 3 years. And so, we're looking at industries that have been a really meaningful source of new hires to our industry here in automotive. Hospitality, travel, restaurant, retail, absolutely decimated employment as a result of the pandemic. All of those individuals, that top 10% of the workforce that I've talked about for the last 10 years that we're all after, they're all on the market right now. And so dealers who want to get aggressive and have the financial wherewithal to do so have the best opportunity they've had since 2010 to go out and really top load their staff with the best people out there.
That's an interesting insight, especially because I think it's rational to believe that those industries that are high touch point, high traffic, are going to come online much slower than automotive, who has a much more controlled environment. So that I hadn't even thought of that, but yeah, we've been tripping over those people and saying it for a long time. But now the fact that they are in the market for an opportunity and we can reinvent that at this point, I think that's a very good insight. Candace, so you said that this is a guilt-free opportunity to rebuild your people. How does that, what are kind of the best practices to go in at that? Adam just brought in this whole other left field idea that I don't think a lot of people are thinking of. Not just bringing great people from the industry, but finding the best and brightest from industries that are going to help us shape the dealership model of tomorrow. What are the best ways for somebody to even get started thinking through that?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that you have to think through is compensation. And we have a couple of things to consider with what's happening in our labor market right now. One is obviously the economic pressures that people are experiencing, and the fact that we're competing against the unemployment benefit. I just read an article in the Wall Street Journal last night that the average unemployment benefit is $978 a week. That's equivalent to about $24 an hour. Now we know, and I know, Paul, you brought this up earlier, we know that particular benefit on the federal level will come to an end. But, to Adam's point, we have an opportunity to go after a different kind of candidate, but we have to recognize, or we have to look in the mirror and question ourselves, do we have an opportunity that's attractive to those candidates? So it starts with compensation and changing the way that we compensate, reducing the amount of variable pay and increasing the amount of guarantee, and aligning your compensation plans to business objectives. So rather than saying you can make $100,000, but we're only going to pay you for what you do, turning that, kind of flipping that around and saying, we're going to pay you to do this job. And within this job, we expect this level of performance. We expect 12 units. We expect a certain amount of ROs written, right? I think the other thing that we have to consider as well right now, and a lot of our dealers are seeing this, is not just the compensation, but overall total reward. So what are the hours? What are the schedules? What are the health benefits that we're providing? We are an industry that is notorious for not really leaning into sick time or paid time off or encouraging people to have that emotional balance, that emotional health. And for a variety of reasons in the landscape right now, we have to be able to provide that. So I think it's looking at your compensation plans, it's looking at your roles. Another kind of interesting thing I'm seeing with a lot of the clients I'm talking to is, as they're bringing people back, those people, the roles look completely different. So it's not this deep, narrow scopal role. It's much broader. One person is now your BDC agent, your sales manager, your sales rep, your finance manager in some cases. And I know you're going to have Mike on here later to talk about some of those operating models, but these are the things that we're already naturally leaning into this now, and what was preventing us from doing it before is the amount of disruption that it was going to cause. So take advantage of this time to restructure your role so that you can go after the candidates like what Adam was talking about.
I think the restructured role conversation is another one of those things that we've been dancing around for a long time, at least the last few years. Both of you came in and spoke at ClarityCon, which at this point feels like ancient history, although it was only like a year ago. But I think, I can't remember who said it, but the conversation came up about we have such a shortage in this new model of salesperson, or a new model of product representative, or whatever. Dealers call them all different things. And I think it was Adam. He said, why is this something that has to be done from inside the store, right? We have a resource in, stay-at-home moms that want to keep working. Like, why couldn't they field phone calls from home? And now all of a sudden, that's all we're doing. Do you see some opportunity, Adam? Do you see some opportunity there in just like making that shift as far as the types of roles that are available and how you would like advertise to get those people to apply?
Yeah, I think this is an opportunity to rethink the operating model, and in particular the people model and how that drives your business. I think it's funny. I think most consumers, certainly the majority of consumers, did not realize that they could buy a new car online. They thought they had to go to a store. You've
Right.
never seen faster adoption of remote selling of vehicles than you have in the last 4 weeks. And I think it's going to change consumer behavior and expectation, because certainly this is not going to be back to normal in 60 days. This is, I've heard some call it an L-shaped recovery, right, as we get back to normal here. And so more people will be shopping remotely. And so dealers, thinking about how to be most efficient with the financial resources that you have, your single biggest kind of non-inventory or brick and mortar input, the cost is your people. I mean, it's 50 to 70% of your cost structure, depending on where you're operating or the kind of model you run. Fewer heads doing the same level of output and same level of service, you would argue, is better, right, than more. And this is an opportunity to really embrace remote sales and service. I think there's a window here where we're going to meet the needs of consumers to feel safe and taken care of, to help them transact a vehicle purchase or service purchase, and do so remotely. The technology's there. I think everyone living on Zoom, both at work and with relatives, and remote birthday parties and everything, all the crazy things that I never thought we'd be doing, we're all doing them now. And this has done more to increase the American consumer's comfort level with remote video-based conversation than anything I can remember. I mean, since FaceTime showed up on iPads, really.
Yeah. That's
and
right.
So people are much more comfortable in big conversations online now. I think that's here to stay. And so, Candace does such a great job talking about the pay plans. Like, what are we paying people to do here? We're paying people to help show a product, help a customer navigate a purchase. We're not necessarily trying to sell stuff, right? We're trying to meet customer needs. And the way the rest of the world does that is to pay people for their time and expect a result. And in our industry, and it's worked for 80 years, that we can pay people a lot, but only for results they generate. And the risk-reward model is flipped. And I think this is that window where we could really embrace a changing model and start to do more selling remotely.
Yeah, I just want to point out too that Adam mentioned the reduction in headcount. It doesn't necessarily need to be that. It certainly can be that, but I look at it more of a redistribution of total spend. We're notorious to the risk reward model that Adam just brought up, that we tend to be very comfortable with these highly paid employees. Specifically like finance managers, where the average finance manager is making $140,000, $150,000 a year. And you have a very small number of people in that department that's generating a very large expense. So it doesn't mean that you necessarily are reducing headcount. You're just distributing the spend in a way that allows for a better operating model, meaning you can have more people on your sales floor so that they can work less hours. You can have more people that are cross-trained. So it's more of, I think, bringing some of those peak comps down and then redistributing in a way that makes more sense for your customers and for your employees, which could result in lower headcount, but it also could mean similar headcount, but lower total expense.
Yeah, it's the headcount advocate for eliminating jobs in the business, of course. But, Paul, you had mentioned this, what I talked about at ClarityCon. Who's to say that we can't sell cars for 10 to 20 hours a week on a part-time basis from home, right? It's rethinking the level of permanent full-time staffing you need. What if you could train a roster of 10 to 20 hour a week stay-at-home parents or people who want to pick up extra income train them effectively to showcase and help navigate a transaction online. My hypothesis is there is a labor pool there that you can really take advantage of, and in doing so, lower your overall cost structure.
There's, I think the one variable, in what we're all talking about, and especially what both of you are saying right now, is the fact that in order to execute either one of those or some combination of those thoughts, your system has to truly be dialed in and dedicated to delivering to that expectation. Because I think a lot of the comfort that comes with the high paid staff is the fact that we can rely on them to manage a whole lot of variables that we don't have plugged into a system. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I agree that we tend to rely on pay plans to manage behaviors versus setting up an organizational structure that allows for stronger accountability, cross-functionally as well. So we may have a department leader that looks at just their department, but very few people are looking across departments. So I think setting up a model that allows us to meet the customer where they are in that buying or servicing journey, because it applies to both sides of our business, right? It's not just on, to Brian's point earlier, the things that he's doing, not only in the sales side, but on the service side, are incredibly innovative and provide for a great customer experience, but we have to be able to meet that customer where they are. So broadening the scope of those roles and being much more purposeful about the strategy that we have around how we can meet that customer where they are through the lens of our people. Okay, so I think this is incredibly valuable. I'm going to give you each 30 seconds to say something to the industry. You can say whatever you want, your encouragement to them. If you have a resource that you want to share, whatever it is. Candace, we'll let you go first. What are you saying to the industry? What can they walk away with? What I'm saying is, again, this is our opportunity to reinvent ourselves and our reputation. And I hate the fact that our industry has this reputation of people either finding themselves in it because they're in transition or finding themselves in it because it's the only thing that they can do. It's the last ditch effort. I hate that. We have so much to provide in terms of opportunity, not just financially, but growth. I love this industry because of the pace. I love this industry because it's a whole bunch of small business owners, and I hate bureaucracy and I hate red tape. And I know I'm not the only person in the labor market that feels that way. So I really hope that this is a way for us to lean into creating a new reputation, not only around our customer experience and our consumer brand, but also on the employment side of the business as well. Thank you so much. Adam, what are you saying to the industry?
Yeah, so we are, again, in a once-in-a-decade situation where we've shifted from talent scarcity to talent abundance. It's what it looked like in 2010. We had talent abundance for 5 years, and then unemployment dropped below 5% around 2015, and we lived in talent scarcity for the last 5. We're back to talent abundance, and I think we're going to be in talent abundance for the next 24 months. And so as you look at your operation, what I can tell you is now is the time to grab upgrades to the team. Go in, employment brand first, people first. Sell what's so amazing about this industry and bring the right people into your business, because it will never be, I want to say easy to do it as it is in a situation like this one. Dealers who get aggressive about upgrading talent right now when the rest of the world is on pause will have a distinct advantage. They'll come out of it faster, they'll perform better, they'll have stronger culture. And I would encourage everyone to take a look at that. But we will get through it, and I'm encouraged to see that some dealers are already doing this exact thing right now. And a final word, Paul, I just want to say thank you for having us on and for all that you're doing, my friend. Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. It really is. If there's one thing that dealers understand is supply and demand when it comes to inventory. It's the same exact thing, but with so when we have a surplus of supply, we're going to get the gems for way less than we would have otherwise. I just want to drive that one home. Candace, Adam, thank you so much, and we'll definitely do this again. I hope you stay safe and be well.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Candace.
Thanks, Adam. Bye.
Bye.